Today, we're talking about something that a lot of strong women quietly wrestle with, holding it all together while falling apart on the inside. You know, the woman who shows up for everyone, handles the family, the career, the relationship, the responsibilities, but rarely has space to unpack her own emotions. Yeah, we're talking about her today. Maybe that's you. I'm joined by Vivian Moyo, therapist and founder of Moyo Wellness Therapy, whose work focuses on helping people slow down, look inward, and begin healing from the inside out. Vivian brings such a grounded, compassionate approach to mental health, especially when it comes to understanding how culture, life experiences, and unspoken expectations shape the way we cope, love, and survive. In this episode, we're getting real about emotional burnout, therapy myths, and what it actually looks like to start doing the deeper work. Not because you're broken, but because you're ready to live lighter, freer, and more whole. So, if you've been carrying more than you let people see, if you've ever felt guilty for needing help, or if you're in a season of becoming a healthier version of yourself, stay with us. This conversation might be exactly what your heart's been needing. Hi, I am your host, Leonette Talley, and you are listening to Virago 24/7. Virago is Latin for female warrior, and 24/7 is for all day, every day. Virago 24/7 is a weekly podcast that brings diverse women together to talk about life and our experiences in this world. We share our views on self-love, mental health, marriage, children, friendships, and really anything that needs to be talked about. Here, you will find everyday growth, everyday healing with everyday warriors. Joining us is Vivian Moyo. She's a qualified life coach, a natural healer, and a transformational guide dedicated to helping people heal from emotional wounds, childhood trauma, and toxic patterns so they can reconnect with their true selves and walk confidently in their God-given purpose. Her work is deeply spiritual and heart-centered. She blends faith, intuition, and natural healing to help people move through pain, embrace forgiveness, and experience deep transformation from within. And she's also written a book called The Invisible Girl, and you're also the founder of Moyo Wellness Therapy. Welcome, Vivian.
Thank you so much for the amazing intro. I'm glad to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Well, your story, from what I was reading, begins with loss and trauma at a very, very young age. So I want to start with how those early experiences have shaped you and have called you to, to become a healer and to want to help others. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay, I'll just summarize it because it is a long story. So, people, if you want to hear the full gist of the story, the book is out in June, where I literally write every detail of the journey. So, I was born back home in Zimbabwe, and my mum died when I was just 3 years old. So, I have no memory of my mom. I don't know I only know how she looks like in the pictures that I'm given. But then within those pictures, I don't recognize her. Like, I know she's my mom, but I don't recognize her as my mom. I don't know if that makes sense because I never really got the chance to bond with my mom. Anyway, that was just that. That was the first trauma. And then the second trauma was my dad was never in the picture. So growing up without a mom and then not knowing who and where your dad was. That was another trauma that I had to live with. And so I was raised by my grandmother back home in Zimbabwe. And obviously she was getting old. So she made sure that before she died, that I was in a safe space where I will be looked after. So this is why I came into the UK. So I came at the age of 11 years old to live with my uncle, who is my mother's brother. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your
I
mother's
was getting that
brother.
confused. Yeah.
Okay.
And so then by the time so my grandmother came with us, made sure that I settled in, and then she left. And then unfortunately she also died by the time I was 12 years old, and I never said goodbye to her. And that was the biggest loss because she was almost like a mother to me in that sense. And so obviously coming into this country, it was all a lot. So imagine having a young girl coming into a different country. She's grieving. She doesn't even know she's grieving. She knows she's lost things. She doesn't even know what it is. Nobody is talking to her about what has happened. And so I think the reason why they were not talking about it in the African culture is a bit different because they feel like, well, you're too young to know stuff. We don't want you to get caught up in this whole situation. Let's pretend it didn't happen. Literally. Let's pretend let's not talk about your mom. Let's not talk about your dad. You're here. That's all that matters. But obviously, as a child, I know that I know there's something missing. I see my cousins with my uncle, with their mother. I see that there's something different in the way that they were looked after versus the way I was looked after. And I knew that I was missing something. And that thing that I was missing was love. So that was the first part of the story.
Wow. I can relate to like moving to another country at 11 years old because that happened to me as well. So I can totally relate to being somewhere that you don't know with new people. And so, yeah, I that part touches me. So you lived with your uncle all the way up until what you became an adult, and then you moved out on your own. And how did you start this journey of becoming a coach and helping others?
So I never wanted to see anyone go through what I went through alone because I felt like I went through the pain of losing my mom and on my own. I had no support. I had nobody to talk to. I didn't understand what was happening. So it started off with me working with young girls in schools and seeing those little girls reminded me of me when I was young. And I never wanted those little girls to grow up without somebody to talk to. And when I went into those schools, oh my gosh, it was heartbreaking because the young kids felt invisible, felt there were mistakes, and these are young kids at 7 years old. And so they really touched me. And then I knew that, coaching and life coaching therapist was something that I wanted to give back to people. I never wanted my pain to hold me back. Instead, I wanted to turn my pain into passion and into supporting other women and people to begin to find their voice and their healing.
I love that. So how long have you been doing therapy and coaching? How long has this journey been?
I'll say it's been many years to be fair. I'll say it's probably over 10 years because I started off with young girls and then afterwards I then started working with the more older women who have gone through abuse and needed a way to find their lives back, and I was coaching them to find their purpose, their careers, and because sometimes when you've been through so much abuse and so much trauma, not everybody is strong enough to move forward. So I was I was able to help these women and these young girl move forward because it's not easy to move forward with so much pain and trauma if you haven't got that support.
Mhm. So with the when you started, is it women and children from your culture, or is it just all different types of people?
It was all types of people.
Okay.
The moment I came into the England, my culture became non-existent
Okay. Okay.
because I left my family when I was 17 years old, and ever since then I've been meeting different people, different cultures. So you name it.
When you're helping others through their journey, their healing journey, is it talk therapy or do you use other methods to help them on their journey?
So I use CBT therapy, and CBT therapy is really supporting people to be able to regulate their emotions. People that are struggling with understanding their emotions, whether that is anger management, whether that is depression, whether that is somebody who's struggling with anxiety, or somebody who's struggling to cope really with the thoughts, with intrusive thoughts that they have in their mind. And so, as the therapist and as a coach, what I do is I basically I find ways and methods to help them regulate their emotions so that they can come back to center. But also, CBT is about them helping themselves. As much as I can want to help them, they need to do the work. And this is why I love doing the CBT therapy, because it's not just talking therapy where we come together, we talk, and then that's it. No, we come together, we do still talk about the issues and what's happening, but then at the end of each session, there is going to be a homework that they will need to do in order for them to see the results, because you can't see results if you're not doing the work or trying something to help the situation. And this is why I love the CBT therapy, because of that.
Wonderful. So what are some examples of the homework that you would give someone to implement in their lives?
Okay, so let's say you have somebody who's coming to me and they said that they find themselves feeling very stressed all the time. They've got so many thoughts and emotions that they don't even know how to process or how to even control. So I would say to them, I would like for you to try journaling, because journaling is the best way to, regulate your thoughts and your emotions and to calm yourself in a more calmer space. So when you write down what is going on with me today, as you are writing, you're releasing the stress, the anger, the frustration, and you're finding peace and clarity in that moment. And by the time you finish journaling, whether that is 3 pages, 1 page, you're by the time you're finished, you will feel so at peace. Because really and truly, what that means with somebody with so many emotions and thoughts and they're not understanding what is happening, they need to talk it through with somebody. And some people, they might not feel comfortable talking through their emotions and their problems with somebody. So the best way is for them to start journaling, which is another way of therapy.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, journaling has been very therapeutic for me. So I can totally relate to that. What other examples besides journaling could someone do if they're in that state of frustration or have things that they have to like get out?
So let's say somebody is, I don't know, is having an interview, for example, and they're about to have that interview and they're so stressed, they're feeling like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this. So what I would usually say to that person is, okay, when you're finding yourself in that state, take a moment, like go to the toilet, find a safe space where you can literally begin the breath work. The breath work is so amazing, where you can literally count. So the breath work is you need to basically count in, as in like you're breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's still you breathe in, and then to release that, then you need to start counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you need to keep repeating that process for at least a minute. Your nerve system will be very relaxed by then, because the problem with that is people in that state, they're not breathing properly. Like you're worried, there's so many thoughts and your breathing is just like it's yeah. And so that's why you find yourself even having panic attacks, because you're not breathing properly. So if you learn to take those, 30 seconds breath work in that state, it really calms the nerves down and it calms you down and you feel so much at peace.
Nice. What with your clients, like what kind of trauma do you find that most people have, or what issues are people trying to overcome? Is there a common theme, or is it very different?
They're very different. And these people, Lynn, are people that have suppressed trauma for many years. Some of these people that have been sexually abused at a very young age, but they have somehow, closed that chapter and they haven't dealt with it. And because they haven't dealt with it, what's happened over the years, there's so much anger, right? There's this feed, there's this intrusive thoughts. I'm not good enough. There's, these things of like nobody's gonna love me, and because they've gone through such a terrible thing that they have never really managed to deal with. And so that's why they struggle so much with depression. They struggle so much with, with self-love and loving themselves. And so I really try to, you know, go back and really help them sort of like heal the inner child. And again, this is why the journaling is good, because it can take you back to your 6-year-old self. Because a lot of the traumas that a lot of people go through, whether that's losing a loved one, whether that's like domestic abuse or sexual abuse or being in a car accident or whatever it is that they've gone through, usually start at a very young age. And normally what happens is people tend to shut down that little child that was hurt, and they don't want to know that child, and they want to move on as if that child doesn't exist anymore. But the reality, Lynn, is that child is still there. And that's why it shows up in anger, it shows up in frustration. That's why a lot of people, again, tend to substance misuse, because they're trying to numb a pain that they have forgotten, or they don't even understand what it is because they're trying so hard not to go to that space. But again, I do understand that, Lynn, because who wants to visit the pain?
Yeah.
Who wants to go through that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes it seems as if it's easy to pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I find though with talking, this podcast has really helped me release a lot of things. So journaling, talking it out is so huge with the healing process, and like listening to others' experience is so important. And one of the reasons why I started this podcast is for people to understand that we're all in this together and that we're not alone in our struggles. So I love your message and I love what you're doing. And you also have a podcast, right? It's the Moyo Wellness Therapy. But what do you all talk about? Is it just you? Do you have guests? What can we look forward to if we go to your podcast?
So, Moyo Wellness Therapy is a safe space where we all come together, we talk about trauma, healing, and, really learning about like the healing journey, knowing that you're not on your own, knowing that this is a safe space, a community where we can all come together. So, when I started it as a therapist, as a life coach, I realized that a lot of people didn't really understand the importance of healing. They didn't understand what trauma really was and how that could affect them in life if they never really healed from that. And so I decided to create a safe space where therapists, life coaches, the people that are doing the groundwork, whether that's psychologists, to come in and to teach us about different ways and techniques on how we can heal, but also to have people come in and share their journeys and their experiences of what they have been through and how they've healed from those, pains that they went through, and me really sharing my story about what I went through, and really talking about it and just really seeing each other and knowing that, hey, we're not alone, we're in this together. So I started it about 2 years ago, and it's going really well, to be fair. And as I'm talking to you, Lynn, you need to come to my show. I feel like you've got so much things to share.
I, I do. I can talk about a lot of things. Yes, I would love to come on your show. I would absolutely love that. Let's get back to your book. So, The Invisible Girl, you said it's coming out in June.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's coming out in June. So is it mostly about your life, or do you put in the, is there like tips and tricks of what you can do to heal? What is like the main theme of your book?
So the book is called The Invisible Girl, healing from trauma. And so really it's about helping people relate to my story, but also giving them the tools and the reflection to heal it as they're reading. So it is a self-help book where I'm guiding them with sharing my story, but also helping them to understand how they can heal from that. And then it's almost like a journal in a way, because at the end of each session, there is like reflection questions where people can really like talk about the things, work through it, as in like, okay, what ways do you find that you judge yourself? What ways do you feel like you can improve in loving yourself? Like it's a reflection where they can really talk about it, or even take a moment to really think about that, to sort of help them. Because sometimes I feel like people can relate to somebody's story, and that way they can see themselves in that story and they can begin to heal in them with those healing prompts as well.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So it's about your story, but then you're also giving tools and making people think about their journey and their lives. So, what advice, if someone is feeling stuck right now and they are not even on a healing journey, they just know that there's old patterns and they're feeling stuck and they're feeling overwhelmed, what is advice that you would give them? What is a tool that they can use like today to start that process of healing and letting go?
My advice will be stop pretending it didn't happen, because that is the beginning of your healing journey. Stop pretending it didn't hurt. Stop pretending that you didn't feel betrayed. Stop pretending that you're not in pain. Stop pretending that you don't need help. Stop pretending that you need to be this strong girl or this strong man all the time. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. It's okay, to not be okay. And it's okay to seek help. Seek help, talk to somebody, because there's people out there that can help and support you. You don't have to go through it on your own. But also, there's so many other people that have gone through probably worse, but just stop for a moment and really stop pretending it didn't happen.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting how people think that by stuffing it down, that, out of sight, out of mind kind of mentality, but realizing that that really drives all your decisions, the way you react, the way you communicate, all those things, it affects all those and not in a healthy way. So, man, I wish more
Exactly.
people would realize, okay, there's some shit going on within me and I got to get it out, and I have to do something about this. And in the beginning, nobody wants to talk about that stuff. You
Exactly.
cry a lot, it hurts, your heart aches, you get mad all over again over things that happened like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And but it's so worth it. It really is. I haven't done therapy myself, but I feel like being on this show and doing the podcast and having different guests and talking to my friends, I feel like that has been therapy for me. So like with you, I'll take a few things that you've said and I will actually implement it, so and actually do something with it. So it is very, very helpful to have guests like you on, to give tips and tricks and tools that we can use if someone doesn't want to go to therapy, or maybe they can't afford therapy. So this is wonderful. Podcasting has been the best invention ever for a lot of us.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then to answer the last question, the tools they can use, as I've already mentioned, journaling.
Mhm.
If you feel like you are not ready to talk about what has happened, start writing about it. Because writing about it is therapy. me writing my book really has helped me to continue to still heal. Because sometimes you just need that safe space to release it, like to be free. And so writing about it, whether that is a piece of paper, whether that is on your phone, whether that is a journal, that is the first step. And as you're writing about it, you're releasing all of that anger, all of that stress, all of that, emotion, guilt, shame, whatever it is. And you are finding freedom, because I feel like when you pretend nothing is wrong, you're not really in a space where you have freedom, because there's so much going on. But the moment you begin to let it out, the peace in it, Lynn, is amazing.
Mhm.
Honestly, the peace of knowing that, oh my gosh, I don't have to keep this secret anymore.
Mhm.
Like, I have a safe space, and that's why journaling is the best thing first. And then obviously you do have therapists and coaching, psychologists and, people that can, help you to unpack and navigate what it is that you are struggling with. You don't need to go through it on your own.
I love that. I love that message. Um, I want to get back to you, and you don't have to answer if you don't want. But going back to like your family, the one that you were raised with, like your uncle and your cousins, you said that they don't talk about stuff like that in that culture. You just pretend that didn't happen. How are they seeing you today, actually voicing these things and saying it out loud? Are they okay with it, or do they feel a certain kind of way about it?
They feel a certain kind of way about
Hmm.
it, and
That's what I thought.
it,
That's why I say you don't have to answer. I had a feeling. So what are their thoughts?
um,
Mm,
they they feel some type of way about it, and their story, again, in Africa, African tradition, you don't really talk about certain things.
mhm,
Like, certain things just needs to be not really be said.
mm,
But I disagree, because I feel like, how are we going to break the generational pattern that is unhealthy in our family? Because a lot of the traumas that we all go through, Lynn, unfortunately, are coming from our ancestral lineage, where they picked up this habit of, let's not talk about it, this habit of, oh, it didn't happen, and then it's gonna be passed on to the next person, and then families in that family are going to think that it's okay, but is it really okay? Somebody in the family has to break that pattern, and unfortunately, it's me. And I guess I need to take the hit, but I don't want my children and then that generation to feel like that is okay, because something needs to change. And there's been a lot of hurt that I don't feel like was done intentionally, but it's just that it's being the pattern for many years that unfortunately is not recognized as something that is wrong, but it is wrong.
exactly. Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel like me talking about my upbringing. I've done a ton of episodes for this podcast, but like the beginning shows were about my childhood, and yeah, that didn't go well. That didn't go well. I think what happens is when you're outing, quote unquote, outing someone, they feel so threatened by it. And I've had my oldest daughter,
Exactly.
yeah, they feel so threatened, and it's not, I'm not attacking you. I just want you to acknowledge that this happened so that I don't feel
Oh my
crazy about
gosh,
my
exactly.
experience.
Exactly. And at
Yeah,
the end of the day, your experience is your experience. They might not
exactly.
have experienced it that way,
Yeah.
but acknowledge that I was hurt.
Yes.
Acknowledge that
Yes.
that's how I feel. But they still dismissive, and
Yeah.
they still feel like you're attacking. So
Yeah.
how do we move forward?
Exactly. And in my experience, I've realized that I had to learn that it doesn't matter. I didn't get like I haven't gotten apologies, or I didn't get like all my questions
You're not the
answered.
only one.
And
You're
I've
not
had
the
to
only
and I've had to let it go. I've
one.
had to just heal myself and that's all I can control.
Yep.
And I had to learn because I was very angry for a very, very long time. And I need to show them that,
Me and you
what they've
both.
done.
Me and you
Yeah.
both.
And I need you to be sorry. And I need
Forgiveness,
you.
isn't it?
Yeah. But when,
Forgiveness, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I had to let it go, and I've had to heal, and there's just going to be certain things that will never be answered. And I've had to accept that. That's a hard pill to swallow. And I think that's why a lot of people just don't want to say anything either, because maybe they think, well, it's in the past. What can we do about it? We can't change the past, is what I hear a lot of people saying. What do you say to people that would say something like that? Like, it's in the past. What's the point of bringing it up and talking about it? We can't change it. That's what I've heard so many times.
Thank you for asking that question. Yes, it's not even about the past anymore, it's about the future.
Mhm.
Like, do you want your children to experience the same thing and the same pain? Because what people don't understand is if you as a mother haven't healed from that and have pretended that it hasn't happened, when you have a child, that trauma becomes DNA, and then your child, unfortunately, is going to inherit that pain. And do you really want your child to go through the pain that you probably could have avoided by dealing with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not about the past, it's about the future, and it's about the next generation. And I'm sorry to say this is no longer about you anymore. Yes, it has happened. Yes, it happened to you, but it's about the next generation. It's about the future. It's about it's about stopping something and making it right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see a big difference. I have 3 children, and my oldest is 24, and my youngest is 15. And
24. You
yeah.
look like you're 24 yourself.
Well,
What do
thank
you
you.
mean?
I had her at 21, so I had her at a very young age, and the way I showed up for my oldest daughter was very just. I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican, so we're very loud, and we scream, and there's just a lot of just sit down and be quiet type attitude. And that's how I was parenting when she was little. And I had to learn when I had my 2 other kids that they're so different. And I had to change the way I communicate, the way I show up as a parent, as a mother. The way I respond to each child is very different because they all have different personalities. So I do see the struggles that my oldest daughter had because of that versus my youngest, who sees the healthier version of me and has a healthier mom and a lot more patience is what I have. I did not have patience. So you're right. It does affect the next generation. And I've seen it in my own children. The way I was in the beginning and the way I am now is very different. And I can see that in the way my kids move through this world. It's very, very different. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Is there anything else you think that you would want to share that people can take away from this show?
Healing is about self-love and choosing yourself. I learned that the hard way because growing up, I was looking for love in the wrong people, not realizing that I needed to learn to love myself.
Yeah.
And the moment I begin to love myself, the moment I'm going to break away from those bad habits, the moment I'm going to break away from those people pleasing habits, saying yes when I know I don't want to
Mm.
do that, attracting toxic relationships, attracting, trauma bonding relationships, being involved in addiction behaviors such as, drugs, alcohol, binging food or whatever that may be. It's about learning to love yourself. And when you love yourself, that's when you begin to choose yourself. And that's when you begin to set boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries are a form of self-love.
Mm.
When I started healing and choosing myself, mean I no longer tolerated people that were negative. the way I did it, I started blocking and deleting people that I knew that the more I kept those people, the more I would never be completely in love with myself. I had to start all over again. I had to really like, okay, what are my boundaries? Like when it comes to relationships, what are my boundaries when it comes to, myself as well? Because boundaries are not just for others, but boundaries are for yourself. And that's where you really begin to see growth and self-love. So, in order for you to heal, start loving yourself and choosing yourself and putting yourself first, even if it seems selfish. People will say it's selfish, but at the end of the day, you are choosing you. You matter. It is your story.
Yeah.
It's about you. And you need to be rootless, even if you need to. I literally, to the self-love sometimes can seem lonely
Yeah.
because you don't even have the chaos anymore. Like sometimes my life is so quiet, it's so peaceful. I'm like, girl, like, where's everyone? But I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? It's good. It's good because I can finally breathe. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's okay to come to that space, but honestly, guys, loving yourself is the beginning and is the best thing that you could ever do.
Yeah.
Because when you love yourself, Lean, as a mother, you can teach your daughters
Mm.
how to love themselves so they don't repeat the same mistakes that you did or other people have done.
Exactly. No, I love that message. I thank you so much, Vivian. We can find you on moyowellnesstherapy.com. Is there any other websites that you have or social media handles that you would like to share?
My website is www.moyowellnesstherapy.com, and literally you can listen to all of our episodes there, and you can get to even look at the coaching packages that we have on our site as well, and the information about the book and newsletter is gonna be out very soon, probably by February, mid-February. So you can subscribe to be on the waiting list.
Okay.
And you can also follow us on Spotify at Moyo Wellness Therapy, YouTube at Moyo Wellness Therapy, although there isn't contact on there just yet, but that is something we're gonna do again, maybe March or but this year definitely. And then you can find us on TikTok at Moyo Wellness Therapy, and then on Instagram at Moyo Wellness Therapy. But the most active social medias probably will be TikTok at the moment, because yeah, writing a book and podcast is just being a lot going on.
Yeah.
But our website will give you more stuff to look out for.
Thank you. I'm going to buy your book. I'm so curious to hear more of your story, and I would love to do the homework that's in there. So I'm going to go to your website and get on that waiting list.
Very much. It's not up there yet, but once
Okay.
it is, I'll send you the link and the
Okay.
information as
Please
well.
do. Please do. Because I'm not just saying it. I'm going to buy it. So please send that to me when it's available.
To come to my show as
I would
well.
love to. I mean, I'm not a therapist or an expert, but I can share my story. And, that's all I have is my story and my life. So I would love to come on.
Definitely.
Just let me know when. And I appreciate you, Vivian, for talking to me all the way from the UK. It's so cool to talk to people from all parts of the country and the world. So I appreciate it. And I thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We'll talk soon. I'm going to wait for your email so I can buy that book.
Definitely. And then you can send it out to your people as
I will.
well.
I definitely will. I definitely will. Again,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much,
All
Lynn.
right. All right. We'll talk soon.
You too,
All right.
darling.
All right. Get
Stay
better.
beautiful.
Yo, thank you. And you get
You
better.
too.
You get better. Get your rest. All right. Bye.
You too. Take care, darling. Bye.
I'll leave you with this. Some wounds don't disappear, but they teach us resilience. Some scars remain, but they remind us of survival. Healing is messy, slow, and unpredictable, but every step forward is proof that you're stronger than yesterday. Breathe, feel, grow. You are healing, even on the day it doesn't feel like it. Thank you so much for listening to Virago 24/7. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and please give us 5-star ratings. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Virago24_7 and on Facebook at Virago24/7. And just connect with us and share your story. We'd love to hear from you.